Hi guys, Olive here. Welcome to A Book Olive, where I like to oscillate back and forth between looking like a normal human and a character from Rainbow Bright. Today I have part one of a book haul for you. Even though there have been no library book sales and I really haven't been actively seeking out books, I still have seemed to acquire a mass of them. So in this part one, I'm going to talk about all the nonfiction books that I acquired. Yay, nonfiction! The first book I got was The Almost Nearly Perfect People, The Myth of the Scandinavian Utopia by Michael Booth. I heard about this book from my co-host for Nonfiction November, Gemma, over at Nonfic Books. I will link her channel down below. Please go check it out. She's awesome. But she read this book to satisfy the Culture and Society challenge during Nonfiction November. Gemma loved this book, and as soon as she mentioned the title, I was immediately interested and wanted to pick it up. I, like everybody else, am very interested in the Scandinavian countries and how they seem to have learned how to do society right. On the surface, things really do seem like they're just better in Scandinavian countries. And I think this book, from what Gemma said, tackles the misconceptions about Scandinavian countries, but also does talk about the ways in which the Scandinavian countries have figured out how to do things right. I am super interested in reading this, and as an added bonus, I think my mom is super interested in reading this, so I can let her borrow it at some point. This next book is a memoir, A Backpack, a Bear, and 8 Crates of Vodka by Lev Golinkin. I got this as a Christmas gift from my best friend, and of course she was very intrigued by the title, as am I. This book is about a young Jewish boy who at the age of 9 leaves the Soviet Union with his family. He and his family then make their new home in Vienna, where he lives until his adulthood, and then as an adult he goes back to the Soviet Union looking for some answers to questions he has. So of course, this sounds extremely interesting. I love the title. Can't wait to get into this one. This next one is going to be perfect for people who like books about books. This is called Patience and Fortitude, a roving chronicle of book people, book places, and book culture by Nicholas A. Basbanes. This author actually wrote another nonfiction book about books, about book people, and he called it A Gentle Madness, which is another one I want to be picking up in the future. But I'm pretty sure that this is just a book about stories of people who love books and places that are all about books and what books mean to people. And I love that idea so much. Of course, being here on BookTube, being a reader, I love books. I love stories about books. I love other people who love books. So I think this one is going to be really, really special. The next book I got is another one about Russia called 8 Pieces of Empire, a 20-year journey through the Soviet collapse by Lawrence Scott Sheets. This book, of course, is talking about the Soviet collapse, and I think it's going to highlight what happened to the other Soviet territories after the collapse of the Soviet Union. I think a lot of people forget that the Soviet Union was a union of territories. It was not just Russia. In there you had Ukraine, you had Georgia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan. You had all these different territories, and what happened to them after the Soviet collapse is not often talked about. And being someone who is just fascinated with that area of the world, I would just like to be more educated about those areas. So I think this is going to be great for that. Also, the cover is really cool. I love any cover with a matryoshka on it. This next book is another piece of Russian history. It is heavy in weight, and I'm sure is heavy in material as well, called Khrushchev, A Man in His Era by William Taubman. Somehow, in my giant collection of books on Russia, I did not have a biography of Khrushchev, so I felt that that was a problem that needed to be rectified, and so I did. I also got an additional biography of Ivan the Terrible. Another biography that I acquired recently is Josephine, The Life of the Empress by Carolee Erickson. Since reading Sex with Kings by Eleanor Herman in November for Nonfiction November, I have been increasingly interested in females associated with royalty or female royalty. And Josephine was the wife of Napoleon Bonaparte. There were 1 or 2 stories in Sex with Kings about Napoleon and his mistresses, so it sparked an interest, and when I saw this, I just had to pick it up. I received Cursed Days by Ivan Bunin, which is a diary of Ivan Bunin. He was an anti-Bolshevik, and these are his diaries from 1918 and 1919. Oppositely, I also got Conspirator, Lenin in Exile by Helen Rappaport. This is a book I have been wanting forever. forever, and it talks about Lenin's time spent in exile. Lenin obviously posed a very big threat to the Tsarist regime, so they were not too keen on keeping him in Russia. He spent a lot of his time in exile. So this is going to talk about the time he spent in exile, and I am super interested in this. This next book is a little bit travel writing, a little bit memoir, and then a little bit historical. It's called Russian Journal by Andrea Lee. This is about Andrea Lee and her husband's time in both Moscow and Leningrad during the early 80s. So you can see how it's a little bit historical because that was the Soviet Union at that point. I, without fail, find it so fascinating hearing about the Soviet Union from the perspective of outsiders, from people who weren't Soviets. I somehow feel like seeing the Soviet Union through their eyes makes me in some way able to see the Soviet Union myself, since I never got that chance. So I am really looking forward to getting to this one. These next two are probably the ones I am most excited about. This next one I received from Steve over at Open Letters Monthly. He has been sending me quite a few books recently, so thank you very much, Steve. I am incredibly grateful to you. Of all the wonderful nonfiction he's sent me lately, I am probably the most excited about this one. This is an advanced copy of The Empress of Art, Catherine the Great and the Transformation of Russia by Susan Jacks. This is a biography of Catherine the Great that really focuses in on the way Catherine the Great fostered the arts in Russia, specifically St. Petersburg. Catherine felt it her duty to finish the work of Peter the Great, who was aiming to westernize Russia and wanted to make St. Petersburg his window to the West. So this book talks about the ways in which Catherine the Great fostered the arts, the ways in which she was instrumental in the creation of the Hermitage, and really her mission to continue westernizing Russia. I think this is going to be fascinating, and furthermore, I think it's really going to challenge me. I do have to say I am not a huge appreciator of the arts. I did go to the Hermitage when I was in St. Petersburg. As a more analytical person, I find it difficult to understand and appreciate art, but certainly a book that talks about the arts in Russia, I think will help encourage me to read more about it and hopefully will foster a little bit more understanding for me. And the last nonfiction book I picked up, which is probably the one I am the most excited to read, is called Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. A top expert reveals the secrets hidden in your handwriting by Michelle Dresbold. I am just going to read to you what this book is about because I am way too excited to try to summarize. This says, have you ever looked at someone and thought, he looks honest, she seems friendly, he doesn't look like a serial killer? Are you always right? Looks can be deceiving, but handwriting never lies. Handwriting profiling is an amazingly accurate tool for assessing how people think, feel, and act. In fact, handwriting profiling is so accurate that the FBI, the CIA, and the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad use it to build detailed psychological profiles of some of the world's most dangerous individuals. And thousands of major companies use handwriting profiling to help them make the right hiring decisions. Handwriting expert Michelle Dresbold, the only civilian to be invited to the United States Secret Service's Advanced Document Examination Training Program, draws on her extensive experience helping law enforcement agencies around the country on cases involving kidnapping, arson, forgery, murder, embezzlement, and stalking to take us inside a mysterious world of crossed T's and dotted I's. So obviously the book talks about what is hidden in our handwriting. It provides handwriting samples of different people and breaks down what you can tell by looking at that handwriting. Handwriting analysis is always something that has beyond fascinated me. I had no idea this book existed until I saw it at a library book sale, hence why I go. I am definitely going to be picking this one up this year. I am so excited to learn more about handwriting and handwriting analysis, and of course we'll be trying to break down the handwriting of myself and everyone I know thereafter. So that was part one of this book haul, the non-fiction section. There of course will be at least one fiction section, if not two. I have that many books, I'm not sure I can fit it into just one video. Please let me know down in the comments if any of these books sound interesting to you. If you'd like to get in touch with me elsewhere, I'm on both Twitter and Instagram at @BookAulive. The link to my Goodreads is down below, as well as the link to my new blog, allofthebooks.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye.